That's right. I have wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail.
You can't stop me.
I'm going to win.
It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
I won't quit.
I'll just keep getting stronger.
Stronger?
Stronger.
Is mine blurred? I gotta change.
No, you gotta blur it. Yeah, but look at what happens. Look at what happens with Jeb. He can like make himself have like a headdress.
That's what you guys have been doing. Like,
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Jeb talked a lot of French accent, which I appreciated.
Said sometimes I like to do squat acid to the grass, and I will put my hands up and.
Jeb's got the right size shirt on, so I'll make sure that I have the right size shirt on as well.
oh yeah, that's the way.
I got tricked. I was talking all that shit about this being an XL, and then I took it off the other day, and the tag said large. I was like, Ben,
Troll too hard, troll too hard. I think this is a large. Hold on.
that's a medium.
No, hold on.
This is totally. That's the rolling in entrance, I think. And you took your shirt off on video. It's like this is the first time we've ever met Ben, and you really need to prove that he like lifts.
Damn it! Thought I got bigger. I'm embarrassed.
You have the B-roll all set.
I can't hear you. Stop talking.
So is that the entrance, or are we actually going? Was that the starting, or do
It's your
you want to?
podcast.
Yeah, I think we just start with Ben's shirt off.
Yeah. It's like, yo, I'm a doctor. Like, did you not know? Like, I know I'm smart and stuff, but like, I lift.
It's the right size shirt.
No one's gonna even get that joke. They're just gonna be like, "What's this? Like, why is he so self-conscious?"
Why is he so hung up on the
This
shirt?
is a great intro. Because I wanted to talk about like Dean's sense of humor and how at first I didn't know how to deal with it. But now I really, really appreciate it because like you stick a knife in the side of their most vulnerable spot, and then as you become more and more friends, then you just continue to like just dig that knife in a little bit deeper. It's like, oh, that's your insecurity. Let me dig that in.
I want to post on it. Like, I know what I want to learn. I'm like, who's gonna write a post about this so I can learn? And then like I know if I say something, you'll
it's all the name of your education.
Yeah. I know you're gonna do your due diligence when you write your posts. Like it's not like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the importance
I feel
of the
like you do your due
podcast, is
diligence.
that people don't just think you're an idiot. Because like on social media, people are probably just like, there's something wrong with this guy Dean. Like he just comes in and says weird shit and then leaves.
Yeah.
I don't think that, Dean. I don't think people think that.
You guys notice it's working. They post the Great Ben House is on the PTDC. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
But you were only like an additional piece. I was
you were on the main
page.
side.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your guests.
No.
And then you reposted it, which is great for everyone.
Well, you do the whole thing like I don't care, but like I'm kind of grateful thing, like approach. It usually ends up making you not look like a dick.
Who, me?
Yeah. No, I'm saying that's what I do. It's like I don't, because Jeb, the first thing Jeb said is you're a fitpro now, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Oh, dude, are you kidding me? How are you not a fitpro? You
No.
like the Joel Seaman thing, and you were like the first guy to create a podcast about it.
Yeah. Is that what a fitpro is? I always think of like, let's define what a fit. Let's do the Pat thing.
Dean's
We're
gonna
gonna
have
talk about
Mark.
something I want to.
Let's define our terms.
Like, so when I think of a fitpro, I think of like going to the gym and like doing banded things and like, oh yeah, it's all your shoulder mobility. Like I learned about this last weekend and I know how to fix it, but like we're not gonna actually lift heavy because that would suck. But I still love fitness. Like it's like a love for fitness, not like a meathead thing. Like you can't be a meathead in a fitpro. Yeah, like a fitfluencer. Yeah, it was. Yeah, fitfluencer. That's way better.
You're calling yourself a fitfluencer over fitpro?
I don't know.
I think you're a fitfluencer.
I'm not even a trainer anymore. So like, is that? I guess that.
Is anyone really a trainer anymore?
Yeah, I don't think that job doesn't exist right now.
I think we're all either fitfluencers or fitpros.
I'm just digging a hole. I can't. This is good because usually like I get to throw everything out, and then it's the only people that have been able to do this is at this point you guys, and Kyle Dobbs always has my number. Like I'll say, because my running joke with Kyle is you're an influencer, and he's just like, yo, your Instagram fucking sucks.
Oh, he's for sure. Kyle Dobbs is for sure an influencer.
Oh, absolutely.
He reposts anybody.
I knife him on that. Like he gets.
I could tag him in anything and he would repost it.
Oh, so the reason that let's actually do a podcast. The reason why it's not because we like you. Like you
I got a hard stop at 3.
You have a hard.
I told my wife that Ben, I guarantee, throws in a hard stop.
Like how long is this gonna take? Like there's you don't know. You what? You have an hour?
Yeah, I got an
hour.
From the beginning.
When?
No, I'm just kidding. Like 3:15, 3:30. What do you guys want to talk about?
Well, the main thing is like so we wanted to pair you up with someone. You're like, fuck that. And so I guess the main basis to like kind of the direction we've been going, and I don't know how much runway we have on it, but generally we're bringing in.
I love this guy. He's just got ads. Like, just take it.
This is what we'll never get through this.
Why this is good. Why not just start the conversation?
Well, we want to know why people do shit. So like our first episode was like Mike and like, hey Mike, how do you go into research and how do you like create stuff? But a lot of the stuff that you do, yeah. And so a lot of the stuff like you kind of taught us and we've kind of grown over the years is like essentially content creation and like how do you get from one point to the next and not be scared to like go with your ideas, but then where do those ideas come from? And you're kind of a good person for this because you've essentially created a course, but your whole thing is research and teaching logical jumps and mechanisms and all this stuff without sounding like an asshole when you get to that point. And I guess we're just trying to get to the bottom of each individual that we bring on and how do they get to their point in time of being an influencer. But like being a fit bro, like what does that mean? And like how do you get to that without being an asshole? And you're kind of I don't know, you're a good person to start with this because you really like research, but you also I think you don't like shitty research. That'd be a true.
So I think the real question you're asking is how do we put out content that is both ethical and people will actually click on it and read it.
Yeah.
Because there's like I get mad at scientists when they share the PubMed link and then they get mad that no one like reads the abstract or clicks on the paper. I'm like, dude, like that paper did not. So science follows an algorithm, right? So there's an introduction, then there's a method section, then there's the results section, then there's the discussion section, and then there's usually at the end there's a practical application section. So there's a way that they do this. Now, in science is worded that you generally don't take hard stances on things. Like it's just written in a way where you're kind of unequivocal. Like you don't want to because you in a debate research environment you want to make the point against yourself essentially in your discussion, where you're like these are the limitations. That's what you're always trying to do with research. That's terrible if you're trying to have a message on the internet. Because you don't have the time. The big thing is signal to noise ratio on the internet, and like you want as much signal and as little noise as possible. And so how do you do that ethically? You have to. So one of the big things in creative writing and literature is like, and probably internet propaganda is like, you make your fucking hill and you die on it. And because people like that, they like they like clear boundaries, they like you having a stance. So what I'll generally do is I'll take a hard approach, like I'll make it black and white in the beginning, and then by the end I'll try to layer in, just shades of gray. And I think you guys recently had a podcast where someone took a stance, right? They posted a hard stance and they got clicks and it got fucking traffic, right? But really their actual stance was a lot. This is what we find is it was not as hard as they made it out to be. And so I battle with that ethically is like, yeah, you can do that. You can have you can play that game, but you're going to get called out. And that even inside of that world though, the call out might be in your best favor. Right, because the call out creates more noise, it creates more traffic, and if you talk to the marketing people, like there might not be bad traffic.
Well, that was it was Joel Steven. And everyone who's listening to this will hopefully have listened to that piece, and like we didn't even call him out. We just talk shit about it because the noise, he made the noise more by going and telling people to go to his article, as opposed to, because like you were saying, call out culture, but the call out thing is like, I want fucking studies right now. You better show it to me, and I want you to do all the work for you. He's like, yeah, no, you got to go read my shit and do all the work. And so
that's weird.
It's but like that's what I mean. So
his point is that if people are dicks, and he can usually tell like what right off the bat, he'll just say, read my article. And he'll just play that, because then it just infuriates him. And I think his point was, he had all his citations in his article, and he's kind of like Dean said, if you're selling something, you want people to go to your website, you want people to get off of Instagram, you want to move them to your site anyways. So he's just kind of doing his marketing funnel from there.
Well, and that's where like it's kind of good to get you in, because I don't even know your thoughts on this, but it's like someone says, I want you to tell me why you think this, and he's saying, no, it's an Instagram post, fuck off, go to my site. And like I don't know like where the right answer is, but that one got a lot of noise because he refused to link studies, even though like I did the work, because we had him on and everything was there. Like he fucking had, it was like a 20,000 word article. Like it was so fucking long. Obviously no one's gonna read it. So I don't know where your stance is on that, because you do work a lot on Facebook and on Instagram, and you kind of do your links, but when you do your posts on your website, you fucking have a big list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Instagram's hard because it's not the platform for that. And you see Pat do it really, really well. Is like he'll put the main point of whatever he's trying to say, he'll just put in paragraph form on the actual post, and then he'll maybe write a little bit more. But I think it's like Twitter, right? You're kind of pigeonholed in based on what the tool you're using. And yeah, if you're trying to, but is Instagram really that good for driving traffic? Because Instagram is pretty incestuous from my understanding, like because they shut down anything that like gets out of their site, they tend to shut it down because they want you to stay inside their portal. But yeah. I'm not an expert in that stuff. I'm just like, for me, I'm grateful that these things exist so that I can share stuff and I'm really, really thankful that people enjoy reading what I write. I think of these tools as just connection tools. Like, so Instagram, like I'm only really following people like that I know personally. And then I watch almost everybody's stories every day, because I don't follow that many people. Right. And I can respond to them. So Instagram, and maybe I'm doing this completely poorly and I should follow all kinds of people and I should spam them and like, hey, look at this article that I created. But that's not what that tool is to me. And so like, Kyle Dietz's book, Digital Minimalism, really helped me with that. It created a philosophy for me around these tools. And I think a lot of people are using these tools without a philosophy that guides them. And for me, like Facebook is just so wild right now. Like I don't even want to spend a lot of time on it. Whereas Instagram is like, okay, these are all my friends. Like, and I care about what they're doing. Like I like to see you guys lift. It gets me excited. And so, I mean, maybe not Dean as much as Jeff. Did
you see my video today? Did you see my story? You probably didn't afterwards.
No, you were laying down and bench pressing. You're like the king of the good grundle views. So
I want you to address that. I said that my bench you did RDLs and I did bench with more weight. Did you see that? Because you didn't respond.
Dude, you can bench press 310 for like 11. What did you do? 14. Like this is your podcast. I'll bump you up. What would you do? 310 for 14 reps?
Yeah.
I'll deadlift that. I'll deadlift that.
Don't concede because it's on my podcast. I want you to get mad, and then I want you to write a post about
I'm not gonna get mad. You're a very, very strong individual, Dean.
I don't know, Joe. Where do you want to go?
Someone in March, literally, they come up to me. I'll tell you this just because I think you'll appreciate it. Like, dude, Ryan's big, but Dean is real big.
Who said it? Is it a joke?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't.
People are saying, frankly, probably Dean might be bigger than Ryan.
Because I know I said that to you. I said those exact words to you, so that could be me.
Dean just sold his own narrative. That's amazing.
I don't want to like take any of your compliments or anything, because like if I was you, I would probably play the long game, and like that would be the start of my end. So you're just like buttering me up for something like really cutthroat. I'm not gonna. Yeah. So I reject whatever you said. I'm not playing this game.
I respect that. I'll continue to say nice things about you because you can.
No. But the
So like I think my thing is going back to this content creation because like that's your course now. It's like a content creation course, and I don't know that was specifically how it kind of started off, but that's where you're at now. But I think the interesting thing is because I hear content creation, and for me it sparks. We're talking about fitpros. It's like another like kind of douchey sales copy thing. When yours is not that at all. Yours is about like you said, creating content that is commensurate with your values versus just being a marketing tool and utilizing research.
So I think the analogy here is the same thing as the really, really good trainer who doesn't have personal skills, who doesn't have the ability to create relationships, right? It's a very similar problem, right? And so right now you might have, and the same thing in science, it's a huge problem in science, is you have scientists who are very, very good, but because they are not good at writing stories, because they are not good at selling their whatever that is, because we're all selling something, right? They're just not good at selling their idea or selling their paper or whatever that is, or their thought process. And so it gets filed away. It just becomes dusty because they can't articulate their message in a way that vibes with people, especially in a culture that is so swipe heavy. Because you got to be able to, you have to be able to grab the audience. You have to be able to keep them involved. Depending on the platform, right? You might have 5 minutes, you might have 10 minutes. If I can get you down to Costa Rica, I have days, right? Because now I've created a little bit of an oasis for people actually paying attention. But in normal everyday lives, like, and I don't know that the other thing is like, how many people are actually putting money on their like table by creating content or like putting food on their table? I don't know. Like, if you don't have a why for why you're doing this, it's gonna get pretty tough. If your why is personal development, and so that's my why. I think that's y'all's why. Is like, I'm gonna create content because it's the best way that I've learned, and it allows me to help other people. But in reality, like, all altruism is reciprocal, right? So I'm trying to help other people, but in that process, I'm learning a ton, and that's the best way I learn. And I think that is the best way that most of us learn. We don't learn by like just downloading stuff from other people. We learn by, digesting it, making it ours, and then creating something. And you see right now what's happening in our culture is like people have been, they're not creating anything, right? They're not able to do work. And that is a huge problem because everybody feels stagnant, right? And that is ultimately probably the biggest problem with working online, is like you don't really feel like you're ever creating anything, like you're not building anything. And that's where it's fun always to kind of have a project that you're working on.
Well, that's kind of what you kind of just basically described our podcast, because like we went through like, and again, this isn't actually to sell your course. I think your course sucks. But when we went through the process of your stuff, and we'll call it content creation, you basically just made us do presentations and pay to do it, which is awesome and helpful. But you kind of walked us through the part of research and logical jumps and mechanisms, and then how to create this thing. But this outline that you had this outline. I don't want to give you your whole course away, but that outline is kind of what we want to grab from other people we bring on, because like everyone who's doing something has their outline, has their story, has their method for building into this thing. And then the articles come, then the ebooks come, then the whatever podcasts and all that come. And it's just, I don't think it's easier for us to put other people on to say, this is how we do this thing. And this is how we got to this place, because I think there's a lot of people, like you said, who aren't making money, who are just running around doing whatever content, and they don't ever get to that point where they want to be a Ben House, or they want to be a Pat Davidson, or they want to be a Mike T. Nelson, or whoever the fuck else. They don't want to be a Joel Seedman, because they literally don't know how that process happens. Because I don't think that it's that common sense. You know what I mean? And that's where it was helpful for your course. And that's why we're bringing on guys like you, because you might have a different opinion than Joel, but you're still coming towards another story and another product and whatever, and you are putting money on the table, I would say. I don't know, I'm assuming, but you bought some nice gym equipment, so you're doing all right.
Yeah, I've made money off the internet for a long time, but I don't know how many people can do that, right? Like maybe that's a scarcity mindset on my part. And if you like, Remit Sethi has a bunch of stuff on like how to create courses and how you don't have to make that much money to augment your income, right? But you you do kind of get into the problem of like the blind leading the blind at a certain point. If the barrier of entry is just so low that because now anybody can create content, right? We all have iPhones, we all have Skype, anybody can create a podcast. It's a problem, right? The same problem that we've been talking about in personal training for a really, really long time is that the barrier of entry is too low. And so I don't know, that is what it is. I'm not going to be able to change that. What I can do is I can help people be better at creating content. And what we see right now is people believe their own story. And I don't ever believe my own story. That was literally beaten into me in grad school over and over again. And just don't believe your own story, kind of always being your own devil's advocate. And that's the most dangerous part of social media and this fitfluencer type world, is that they get stuck in echo chambers, and everything what they believe just gets constantly funneled back to them, and they believe it more and more and more. And then you get us versus them, and you get little pockets that pop up. You get 1,700 people posting on his site, right? Not bad or good. I think it's just a product of the system. And so how do you get around that? Well, you have to teach people how to think. And I don't know that like red versus blue pill, like that's a hard pill to swallow. It's a lot easier to just, listen to this guy. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like if you're listening to people who have your best interest at heart, I don't know that being a follower is a bad thing, especially if you're able to work with people and you're able to, because there's going to be, you're going to have infantry, and then you're going to have people that are leading or making decisions. And a lot of us want, it's not bad to want to train people. That's not a bad thing. It's not bad to want to be a really good coach. I enjoy aspects of that, but I don't want to do that all the time. But some people love it, and they don't want to spend the time trying to create another revenue stream because they're really good at that.
Well, that's why I just pictured this. Oh yeah, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, because in falling into this, the thing that you're saying is like, okay, in grad school it was beaten out of me, like not to buy into your own narrative. Yet even, especially now, and probably because I shouldn't go on Facebook, but even on Facebook, we see a lot of people with extraordinarily advanced degrees, and generally ones who have garnished a lot of social media notoriety or acceptance or whatever you would call it, a lot of followers. That really, you can almost see them buying into their own narrative. And I don't know if it's because they're selling or whatnot, but you see that echo chamber, and it's just becomes their own echo chamber. Like what is it about you that has allowed you to kind of stay out of that? And I think you've done a really good job in that aspect, but how to stay out of that, of like buying into your own bullshit.
Well, because, and the lead with that too is that I envision people listening to this, if they know us and they know our stuff and they kind of follow a lot of stuff we're going to, they want that. Like, and I think that we're talking to the person who is kind of doesn't want to be in infantry, and they may not have the ability to get out of that, but like, what's the path, I guess, so to speak?
Of not believing your own bullshit, or
all of it. That whole thing Jeff was saying is just like, how the fuck do you get out there and start to create this thing so that you're not a fucking echo chamber motherfucker, even if that's just because they don't want to do it. Like, they don't want to be there, but they also don't know how to get out. That's hard.
Yes. So you see silos in academia all the time. Like you see that happen. The whole goal of academia is to put people who disagree together. Like, that's not the whole goal, but that's one of the big goals, is to put a bunch of people. That's why you have these conferences, because you put a bunch of people that don't agree. Like, you put Gary Dobbs and Alan Aragon on a stage together, and you have them duke it out. You have them duke it out in science, whatever. That's fine, because you're naturally going to have different sides, and that's okay. But when you watch like scientists discuss things that they aren't in agreement on, they generally come to like a point where they're like, all right, yeah, we agree to disagree, and there's not enough research to back either of us up, and so we get to this good point. It's rarely ever like, holy shit, you're a terrible person. Sometimes it is, but in the internet, that's what we see, because we see people in this. I think, Jeb, you grabbed an interesting point, is like, how do we have these really, really smart people, like tons of letters after their name, tons of experience, right? How do they possibly get worse with their own experience, right? And we don't necessarily, the COVID is such an interesting science thing to watch, because you're seeing science in real time, which it's not meant for. You're not seeing peer review processes go through, which is the peer review process alone is generally 3 to 6 months on the fast side, right? So you're seeing papers introduced without going through that process. You're seeing anyone is able to share or post an article immediately, right? And now you have the news media is just taking science and essentially stripping it down to a message, and then you have figureheads arguing, and you have it's really weird, because so in the COVID situation, you essentially now you're having us versus thems of this isn't a thing and this is still a thing, right? It's not as dangerous as it once was, but it's still a thing. And then you have the other end, which we honestly don't know that much. We don't know how long antibodies are going to stick around. There's still a lot of stuff that we don't know, but they've pendulum shifted all the way over here, right? They've pendulum shifted to like, boom, this is not a thing anymore. And that could backfire, right? And I don't know. The problem is like, it's really hard to make decisions in science before you have a lot of information. So the point of science is not to find the truth. The point of science is to knock down all the pins, right? And see what's left standing. Right now we got a lot of fucking pins left up. Mm-hmm. And so like we don't know what we don't know. And it's in that unknown, what is being sold to us is fear. And it's because that's what we'll click on right now. And so that's why I think it's a really, really good idea. If you don't have this idea, if you don't know the downsides of epidemiology, if you don't know the downsides of mechanistic research, if you don't know the things that these types of studies can and cannot say, I wouldn't even look at what's being said, because you can't form really a viable, you can form an opinion, I guess, but I don't know that it's going to be worth your while to try to sift through all of this stuff without the tools to see what's bullshit and what's not, or even like what you can really gather from this amount of research. Same thing with the protein timing stuff. Like this protein timing, it was the biggest deal ever, right? We all grew up through the protein timing research, right? And you have to eat protein immediately after you train, right? Well, you look at that was mechanistic research on untrained subjects doing novel exercise, so that you could just pound away, you could get this huge muscle protein synthesis response. In real world, probably doesn't matter that much.
Still do it.
Asymptomatic risk. Yeah, I mean, there's three papers now. No, there's 3 papers now that have had intermittent fat. They're all shorter term, right? Where people have eaten in an 8-hour window and it hasn't really affected the results negatively. And so I think that if you get 3 protein boluses a day inside of an 8-hour window, you're probably fine. And that's a hard pill to swallow, that things don't matter. And I think in the fitness community, we really, really want things to matter. Mm-hmm. And nothing really matters that much. And that's tough.
Well, and I think such a great point that you brought up about COVID, and mainly because so Dean and I have talked about this. I was like, you've written some really insightful, thoughtful, thought-provoking pieces. And I told Dean, I was like, I don't share these, partially because the people that follow me either don't have, like, they're thinking very binary. They're either thinking one way or the other, and something that kind of melds them together becomes ultimately confusing. And right now what people are saying is, oh, look, the models were wrong, so science is horseshit. They're all trying to trick us. And it's like, no, the models are always wrong, right? And science being wrong isn't science being wrong. It's what it's supposed to do. And so the confusion now is that it's the scientists and everyone's trying to screw you. And it's like, no, that's just how they come to conclusions. And like you said, it's happening in real time, and people can't understand that. And it's like, and I see, like, I think one of the earliest post you wrote up was about, we have to weigh the cost of life versus the cost to economy. Ben
doesn't like old people. That's why we can't.
Right, and that's where it comes. And that's not at all the thing.
I've thought about reposting that. So I'm a random fucking dude in Costa Rica in February, like just completely random, right? So how do I, like? And I've thought about this. Like I'm not that smart. Like I'm not a statistician. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a modeler, right? But I've been in epidemiology labs. I know the downsides of epidemiology. And one of the problems of being siloed out is you don't acknowledge the downsides of your own research, of your own thing that you do. And this is a problem with epidemiology, period. Nutritional epidemiology, think game changers. That's their main point, is they're looking at epidemiological data. They're watching people over long periods of time. Oh, you eat red meat and you die earlier. Is it red meat or is it all the other shit that you do, right? And so your epidemiology is really only good at your data, and it still is not causative. So in the beginning of all of this, what did we have? We had, oh my God, this is a thing. We just figured out how to measure it. Oh my God, we're only going to measure the people that have symptoms. Like, what do you think you're going to find? You're going to find crazy high fatality rates because you're looking for them. You're only testing people with severe symptoms. And so now, of course, those models are wrong because they were built off that data, right? And now the models are saying, okay, it's not as dangerous as we once thought. But if it's 7 times, this is obviously not my area of expertise, and I will say that 100% of the time. Like, so, but the thing that we don't know now is it 10 times worse than the seasonal flu, or is it the same? Like or is it a little bit lower? We don't know that. The data is not good enough to tell us. So we've knocked down the pins. It's probably not a 7% fatality, right? So we've knocked down that pin, but we still don't know if it's 1%, if it's 0.1%, or if it's 0.01%. We still got to knock down pins. And so, but if it's 1%, if it's as high as 1% of the population, and the United States, 360 million people, like that's 3.6 million people. That's still a fuck ton of people, right? And yes, you know, if your risk of death, if you're under 50, I think is less than driving a car. I think there's a lot of statisticians who've looked at that. It's like 0.01%, right? So there's really no reason to keep, and this is, my mom's a professor, so this has been a huge deal in the university setting, because they're like, shit, like the kids aren't the problem. The teachers are. The professors are the ones at risk. So like you should, in theory, like if we, whatever reopening strategy you have, right? But now the kids aren't the problem. We're trying, I don't know what happened. But there's this crazy amount of risk for people who are older, especially with comorbidities. And now how do you weigh that against not a lot of risk for fatality? And the other thing we don't know yet is like hospitalization rates. And so it's really, 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 really interesting to see people who don't understand any of the downsides or the upsides of the research try to make opinions and then from those opinions, they take an action. And that to me is what is most dangerous, is because now you've created a belief structure, and now because that belief structure is so strong, you're willing to go do something that could potentially hurt other people. And that's why I write it's really, really weird to me. I write in a way that I don't actually say anything. I don't actually take a stance. I almost never take a hard stance on something. It's very rare. Like I'll take a hard stance on eating high volumes of food, I think, but even then I'll be like, oh, well, if you have IBS, if you have a lot of digestive issues, it's going to be problematic, right? So there's always a way out of, there's always a contextual way out. But I think like, if you're taking hard stances all the time, you're going to get caught. Like you're going to get eaten. And it might be good for traffic. It might be really, really great for your business model, but from a science side, like
how do you cover your ass then? Because like I think like the one thing that you did at the week number 1 is you basically like, oh, here's my presentation, and like it was good, and you knew like everyone's coming because of Penthouse, and they know your shit, and you're like, I need you to tear this apart. And so that was like eye opening to me. So it's how do they start to do that? You know what I mean? Because and maybe it is that, but like how do they cover their ass? Because I think that the people that are scared, I maybe that's just me, but I think that if I have this avatar of this person who wants to be in this spot, they are scared that their ass isn't covered, and they're gonna have Lane go on their Instagram and call them out, and they're gonna cry, and you know what, and they don't want that. So I think there's that fear. So I guess how are some ways they can do that? And I'll just say cover their ass. You can take it wherever you want, but I think that that's going to be helpful.
I don't know if you want to have 1 million followers. I think if you want to be really, really good, I think you have to have some kind of God complex. I think you have to be able to believe your own story. I'm never going to have that amount of followers. Like, it's never going to happen. So that's just not in the cards. But so if you want to be really, really good, I think you actually like believe your own bullshit. I think you just constantly spout it and you get a bunch of people to follow you. Now, if you're after this ethically, if you want to do this in an ethical manner and you care about people, and you care about the integrity of your message, and I think if people are listening to this, they probably care about the integrity of the message, then you have to begin to try to see the downsides in your own research question. And I think this is the problem. Dean's high flux situation is the best. Like, what is the potential downside of these creating these high flux environments? It's, well, now you're eating 3,500 calories. Like, I stepped on a piece of glass last night. Like, I was getting out of the shower, walking and I stepped on a piece of glass. Like, what happens if I can't take fucking 12,000 steps tomorrow? Like,
fuck.
Yeah, and I'm used to eating 3,500 calories. Like, I'm gonna be like, now I gotta immediately in a drop of a hat, I gotta drop down to like 2,200, 2,400 calories. I'm not even weighing. I haven't consciously thought about food in 4 months, dude. I've just been like eating all the time. So if I took away that high flux environment, like that could get me in trouble, right? And so immediately, once you have this mindset of like, where are the weak points in my argument, that first step is acknowledging them, and the second step is having the balls to research them and talk about them. And so, like, Jeff, you talked about mindful eating, mindfulness, not specifically mindful eating, but being more mindful in terms of the nutrition process. If you look at the mindful eating research, mindful eating tends to work really, really well for guys. It doesn't work well for women because women don't eat fast. Guys eat fast, so it slows us down, right? and so if you read if you're like the mindful eating person, and you're like telling everyone, oh my God, you got to do mindful eating, and then your avatar is it's a 45-year-old female, and you're mindful eating, and it may help some of them, but it's probably not going to help a lot of them because they probably already eat pretty slow. And so it's knowing the chinks in your armor, it's knowing what your hammer can and can't do, and it's knowing the downsides of your hammer and being able to acknowledge those. And then when you create content, you use the narrative of and as many ands as you want. Like, metabolic flux does this, it does this. Flux does this, it does this, it does this. But it doesn't do this. Therefore, this is how we use this tool. And I think both of you guys got to that point with your presentations. Is you're like, these are all the things that it can do, but these are the downsides, and this is our final conclusion. And guess what, guys? That's the narrative of a scientific paper. It's just nobody reads them.
And I think that was the kind of thing that we both took out. And I think that caution, again, I think we also realize now that we've hitched our wagon to only being this popular. Because so thank you for that. But
that, for anyone watching, that means not popular.
Not popular.
Ben only has followers because he paid for them. But
I only have bots.
But in that aspect, it's like, okay, one of the things that we kept coming to is like, we don't want to make hard stances just because I have made hard stances in the past, and the only reason I'm doing the things I'm doing now is because I actually was able to realize how shitty my hard stance was, and being like, oh, I have to start over. And I mean, that was a big slap. I mean, I remember doing the beginner's mind course and stopping to go read Behave because I didn't understand any of the neuroscience, and I was like, oh geez, I'm not ready for this. And I think that aspect helps inform all the stuff I do now, is not taking that stance.
Well, it's because you bought Ben's course, and Ben like stops everyone. He's like, listen, if you don't know this, you got to go read. I ain't giving you shit. And you're like, whoa, please give me everything. But why'd you do this to us? But I was helpful. So it's interesting, the stats you take, because I don't know how many people appreciate that. Like, you know what I mean? Because I guess the world we kind of built here with social media and all this shit is people don't want to do that. Like they want
the answer immediately.
Right.
And
which is that isn't
a good way to think. Like, it's not a good way to critically think, is someone just give you the answer again and again and again. Or, oh, I don't know the answer, I'll go to this guy, and then I'm just going to trust that person, and I become, that's my deity, or I'm going to put that person on a pedestal. And that's an easier way to live your life. Don't get me wrong. But being able to critically think and then find information and then think about that information and the quality of it, that's a lot more difficult. And I don't know that there's a ton of people that want to do that. I'm not sure that I have the best business model. I don't think I do. But luckily, before COVID, I was a sideshow. But now, I mean, hopefully I can go back to my trophy husband life. I say that somewhat jokingly, but my wife's, I mean, I'm able to do what I do, which is ironic. I'm able to do what I do because of my wife's social media following. Like, I'm able to create this content that isn't necessarily driving a ton of revenue, but is in line with what I believe in integrity and yada, all these value-driven words, yada, yada. But what I'm able to do that because of my wife's ability to essentially fill a lot of yoga events throughout the year, which I'm able to help with, and she's really, really good at her job. But a lot of people don't have that safety net. You know, they don't have a partner who's making a lot of money, and I respect that. And so it's tough.
Well, it comes down to, and again, we just agree that you do things well, but I think like we can agree that you're trying to bring level of fitness up, because there's a lot of people who say, oh, it's like we talked about it's easy to get into this industry. It's easy to learn all the easy stuff and make money off of it. But no one has solutions for that problem. They're just like, well, it fucking sucks. Like all these fucking losers coming in, they're taking my jobs, they're putting my posts and blah, 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 blah. But you've actually offered solutions. And I just don't see it that often. And that's kind of why we're doing this thing, is like, you want some solutions, like listen to how these people did it, because we think that they're this thing that you want to be, as opposed to this entry level person that can make money in fitness. And I just, like, again, like you said, that's okay too. It's just, I think that the people listening to this don't want to be that, because we make fun of them. And it's like, they don't want to be, it's that whole thing of they don't want to be made fun of. Like, as much as you don't, like, you're not this big influencer, there's some form of people don't want to fuck with you when you write some long fucking post. And even if that's not true, it's kind of like, well, I'll just leave that guy alone. Where I don't think that that's going to happen with a lot of people writing some of the content, because they're taking hard stances and they're getting, we'll just use Lane, but Lane's coming on and attacking them, and now they don't release anything out to the world anymore. They're like, oh, I'm scared. And I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah, that's one of the problems, is you're seeing people, like, you can look back at some shit that I've written and it was terrible. Like, you look back 5 years, and I'm sure I'm going to look back 5 years from now and be like, damn, I can't believe I had that mindset, right? But that's the race. So you're talking about essentially framing your question, like the race to the bottom in the fitness industry?
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Just the fear aspect of being called out for not having enough knowledge. Like Dean's saying, like, people don't create because of the fear that those who are more knowledgeable than them will discredit them, and that will make them then, you know. And
I think that's real. Like, I think that
and it can be.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for most anyone in any profession, I'll make the debate, like, know your, like, imposter systems is always going to be a thing, right? But know your why. Like, you have to know why the hell you're doing something. Like, for me, you guys know this, like, I could live in a fucking trailer, like, legit. You could put me in an RV if I had fiber internet and I had some food in a weight room. Like, I could live off probably $15,000 a year and be completely happy.
You said 18, like, so like
maybe I've been thinking about, like, I've had an extreme scarcity mindset over the last 2 months.
How much lower the bar?
I've whittled that $18,000 down to $15,000. So I think I could live on that amount of money. So money is not a primary driver for me. It's not even a secondary driver. So, but some people it is, and I don't think that that's bad. Like, whatever, financial, like, we care about muscle mass. Muscle mass is, Pat and I talk about this a ton. Muscle mass is the same as money. Like, at a certain point, it's fucking bad investment. It's just a ton of cost for zero benefit, right? But we love it. So, if your goal, why are you creating this content? Why do you want to do this? If the driver is money, okay, good. I probably am not the guy to help you. Go to some fitfluencer or fitpro that can help you drive traffic. And what do you say? Like, how incestuous is that fucking deal? Like,
oh yeah.
Dude, crazy. The fitness business world. Oh, give me
you can see the network. Like we know what conferences that everyone goes to depending on who their like network is. It's really
Don't even
weird.
get me started. My whole other podcast is like half of it's spent making fun of it. But I know if you do the web of it, you know exactly where it starts, and it's just like it's actually you don't even look into it. It's just it's crazy.
Dean and I had this conversation once, and we were talking about clients and you know how to like you know motivate people into something. And I said like my corollary, my analogy is if you gave me a program and said, this program you will make $1 million this year, and I said, sweet, sign me up, I'm ready, I'm dedicated, I want to make $1 million this year, let's do it. And they were like, okay, first rule is you can't lift, you can't do jujitsu, and you can't pay attention to your nutrition. I'd fail out in a month because that's way more important to me than making money. Mm-hmm. And that's once I came to that realization, it was like, okay, like, and I think I posted about this the other day. It was like COVID has been great because when I talk to my friends and we say, hey, how you doing? Well, I'm training and I'm still working. Like that's kind of that's what's important. Like my family, my training, and my work.
Mm-hmm. Having a job to do, I think is really important.
Purpose.
So if we think about the avatar, like why create content or why even consume fitness content? Why not just watch like ass videos of squats? Like why are we even caring? Why are we trying to create and consume content? I think if you're trying to make a lot of money, you want as rigid a story as possible, right? And you want to sell the shit out of that story. Right? That's why multiple companies have tried to hire me as a writer. I've gotten almost fired from all those jobs because I won't write it in a rigid way. They're like, yeah, but this is kind of negative towards our overall philosophy. I'm like, yeah, that's because your overall philosophy has holes, right? And so like that, the rigidity of it, that's what sells. So if your why is just to be as good a coach as possible, I don't say that in a negative way. If your why is to be, I want to help as many people as possible, and you got to probably look at that why the number of, this is like I have the ability to talk to a lot of fit bros, and I want to help. I want to help a lot of people, and I have to, like, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, why do you want to help a lot of people? Where is that coming from? Like, why does the number of people matter? Right? So there's ego everywhere. There's ego involved in all of this stuff, whether it's money, whether it's helping people, whether it's creating content. There's always ego there, right? Not bad or good. So, but if your goal is money, you're going to work in a certain way. If your goal is to help as many people as possible, I don't know that you need the ability to filter out quality information. And then you need to have, I don't even know how many tools. You need to have a good amount of tools on your tool belt so that you can use the right tool for the right job. And then it's probably all about interpersonal skills and how you interact with people, right? And that allows you to be a good coach. Now, if you want to be a coach and a content creator for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe I don't. Why do you guys think that people would want to be a coach and a content creator?
Because they want to be the show.
Yeah. How long? It generally takes like 5 to 10 years. They're like, man, coaching people was fun, but it's not as fun anymore. I kind of want to coach people. I don't really want to coach people all the time, but I want to do other stuff. I feel like I'm a professional now, so I should do this. And that's generally when it happens. And so they want more because it's not enough anymore. They want more, which again, there's ego there. There's always ego. And so if you want to be that person and you care about helping people, but you also care about like refining the tools that you're using, then I think that now you need other tools to do that. And I see a lot of people making that jump, but they don't have the ability to be able to critically think about the tools that they're using or why they're using them. And then they don't have the ability to critically think through the positives and negatives of their tools to analyze them, which primarily is science.
Well, and that would be, so that jump that you're talking about, it's kind of like our crowd, so to speak. And so like what would you say to that person? Like, I know you're like, yeah, you get the critically thinking and all that stuff. And like outside of taking your course, because we'll blast your course as much as we want. But like, what does that look like? Because I would say that that's where a lot of people are, especially because there's a lot of coaches that listen to this and that we know in our network that it is that 5 to 10 years. Like they're there. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how am I going to retire? I'm fucking 35 years old and I'm capped out on how much I can make. And that COVID thing just fucked that whole thing up. So I know now every other year that I don't have a job. I might not have a job. because that's totally possible now. Now that we've seen kind of what this like that we have no control. So now we have control over that other stuff though, and the content creation and jumping in online. So yeah, I don't know what the question was in terms of that, but it's like,
how do you make that jump?
Yeah, how do you make that jump?
So there's two real tools that you need, in my opinion. You need the ability to digest and absorb information. Specifically, I would go with publications and research-based content. So you need that ability, and then you also need the ability to be interested and to have a message and to be able to have a clear message. And that, to me, I'm kind of a perfect storm in that I took a creative writing course when I was 21 years old. And I was like, damn, this is awesome. Like, so I went to a liberal arts college, and I literally had to fill a social sciences credit. And I was like, my mom had a creative writing professor as a friend, and he was like, hey, take my class. And it was my last semester at school. And I was like, damn. And I took the class, and there was 11 people in there. It was kind of like a symposium class where you just wrote and like shared, and it completely changed my life. And so that was the impetus. And I'm really, really lucky that I've been writing for 13 years, and along with all and beginning, I would say, man, even this shit, I write shitty stuff now. You're always gonna write shit. It's kind of like cultivating a garden. It's always gonna happen. But the creative process is the creative process, and that takes time to develop, and it takes practice. Just like you were a terrible coach when you first started. Why do you think you'll be a great content?
Speak for yourself.
You're getting better. You're like, was your second how much better was your second presentation versus your first?
Man, don't call me out right now. It was
Really
you're right. It is. Yeah, absolutely. Because I realized, I was like, yeah, damn, it could be better.
But that opportunity for growth, like, now times that by 1,000, right?
Yeah.
And so those are the people that you like. When I get on a podcast and they want to talk about certain things that I talk about all the time, it's kind of a dog and pony show. Mm-hmm. And that's a negative in the fact that that's one of the big. Imagine you give the same talk 100 times, you start believing the shit out of that talk. And that's why you need people to call. That's why your network and having all of us, that's why I created BroResearch, right? Is because you need other people to call you on your shit. That's the point of academia, is having a network that's not afraid to be like, dude, I don't agree with. And they say it in a way, not like Dean, where it immediately puts you on guard. But they say it in a way like, hey, Dean, I love your tattoo. Why is your hair so fucked up? they slide it in. You know, you gotta put some lube on your comments.
I think it works. Like it worked. It pushed you to grow a little bit, because you're like, damn, I get.
Well, I am a grower, so that makes sense.
Oh, well,
but
I don't know what the breaks are for this podcast.
But you went there. Like, we were having a good conversation about it.
I mean, it's clear. There's a cable machine at my house. Like, yeah. Like it's very clear that my resting state is not as big as my post pump state. It's very to anyone who knows.
You're the only dude to be a self-proclaimed BroResearch, worried about getting bigger, and you're not. I don't think you've gotten bigger since I've known you. Like, what the fuck?
Well, as a failed athlete, yeah.
But you're a really good athlete. Like, I've watched I watched you play frisbee. I've seen you throw a football, and you're good at all the lifts. It's just it never, I get it.
I was a decent Olympic lifter, a pretty good CrossFitter, and not good enough to really be that good at anything. Yeah. And so I'm a decent content creator, maybe not that good to be super popular. So it's kind of, I'm glad I'm a dad now. So it's just really I can pass the grenade of life's fulfillment and life's meaning off to my daughter,
You can imagine your kid going to school. We'll get back to what we're talking about. Hey, my dad runs BroResearch.
What does your dad do? I don't know. He has his buddies come hang out at the house for 2 weeks every 6 months, and it's just weird.
And there was a bunch.
They were shirts off all the time.
There was lifting, and then they were crying, and then they were just sitting there with their shirts off. It was so weird. And the teacher's gonna give you a call home, be I don't know what's going on up there.
Yeah, I don't know if she's gonna like if she's gonna find a male or like whatever, it's gonna be really, really interesting to what type of person she gravitates toward in her life. Like live your truth, like the yoga crowd, or live your truth, the fitness crowd. So yeah,
you'll need to give her digital minimalism right away.
That's actually a really interesting segue into some stuff. So life throws shit at you, obviously, and you guys live in the macro world, and I now have a daughter who's 8 months old, who I'm deathly afraid of putting too much nutritional advice on her. Like it is like my biggest fear right now. Like my wife's feeding her toast at dinner, and like, oh my God, the clean eating crowd just lost their mind, right? And so I used to be a big advocate of clean eating, right? Clean eating matters. If you only have 1,800 calories to get, yeah, it's going to be a big deal. You probably should not eat muffins. Like, terrible, because you just smoked a third of your calories for the day, right? But my wife's an intuitive eater, whatever that means. We can argue about the definition of what intuitive eating is, but that is my big, huge project for the next 18 years is like, how can I not make her a nutrition crazy person living with me? And so how can we have interoception? How can she listen to her own food cues? How can she not have dietary restraint inside of our current world? How can I make sure that she's active enough without like fucking strapping a pedometer on a 5-year-old? And like, how can I create those environments where health just happens? I hate the term health, but like I don't put all the negatives of the fitness and nutrition world. I want to give her as many of the positives as I can. And so that is definitely reframed a lot of how I think about this, just from a life perspective.
Well, it's funny because just my, the volume of people I've worked with that have a lot of the, issues with emotional eating and things. That's where I've gravitated more towards all this mindfulness stuff. And to begin with is because I started looking at people that are advocates of intuitive eating or of weight neutral approaches, and everyone, in the world that we inhabit shits all over that. And then I started looking at it, I'm like, okay, like I'm still going to use weight loss and fat loss. Like there has to be a measure of that. And so, yes, weight will be used and macros might be used, but is there a potential? And we talk about downsides. Like all of a sudden I started saying like, hey, there's a lot of really big potential downsides with what I am doing with clients. And if I don't somehow work to mitigate those with other strategies, I'm complicit. And I have a big problem with that. I don't care about throwing up a bunch of transformation pictures if I'm complicit in creating larger problems for the holistic person.
So as much as Dean doesn't want to value integrity, I know that he does. I know that it hurts him.
Say that?
It hurts him. So like the reason, what I loved both of your presentations, the reason I loved them so much was because it was all about both of your burning pains, and that how the hell do I get people off a diet? How do I get them from this point of counting and very high cognitive burden? How the hell do I get them back to some life where nutrition is at least kind of a backseat to the other parts that are ultimately a lot more enjoyable?
Mm-hmm.
And so that you guys try to make your own answers.
Well, and that's kind of like I actually like where that led, because I think I said it to you in Costa Rica afterwards. I was like, I kind of get through this process how you start building layers to what you do, because you had this base in your PhD in nutrition, and then CrossFit and blah blah blah, it turned into this, and then now you had a kid and it's turning into this, and I kind of see that now. And I don't want to say that's the right way, but it's been, for me, after seeing that and going through my process, I feel like it's been the most passionate way to do things effortlessly, as opposed to like grinding something I just don't fucking like. And I would just want people to get there. And like for Jeb and I, it's been our meatheadness and then working for a nutrition company, being trainers and all this stuff, present all these other burning, ideas that made this stuff not hard. We just layer on ethical research on top of that to kind of get there. Because I think otherwise you get stuck. And I don't want people to get stuck, because like we can have these questions and you can answer them, but if you just go on the surface level, you're not going to get too far.
Which is the problem with the PhD program, right? Like, so you get into, I was really lucky in that my advisor let me pick from like 3 items. So like I at least had some autonomy. But usually when you go get a PhD, you're essentially handed a project. Like I don't care if you like cell swelling, you're going to look at cell swelling. And that's going to be your project because you're in my lab. And now you guys have the ability, and most people listening to this, and you have the ability to pick your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that that's beautiful, because you can pick it, and then if you don't like it, you can stop it. And one of my tenets is like fail fast. And so like part of finding your passion is finding your not passions. It's way, way more important. Like I get so exhausted. Like I get like, find your passion. Like, what is that even? How? Like you find your passion by learning you don't like shit. Like that's how you like. There's a lot of stuff that I taught high school. I fucking cleaned up seaweed. Like I had so many fucking jobs, right? There's a lot of things that I don't want to do.
Yeah, you don't like the follow program
for 60 hours a week. Dude, I'll send you my new program.
Actually, and I want you to like post Instagram videos of the actual.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Even if
I can share my screen. So
share it.
Yeah.
What's it gonna?
Public
this
knowledge
is a good story
now. Public record.
So
I don't believe you.
That's perfect. Dean, I will send you my spreadsheet. I will send you. I love this. The next 4 to 6 week block.
I think I'm the only one. So I told you we started this with like, oh, I dig a knife in you, and I said like you weren't that big, but like maybe I'm digging a knife in you into the things you can improve because I like you that much. Because like you can't honestly say you follow your program up until like recently is what I'm hearing.
So I work best on. I'm serious. I'm being completely serious right now. I work really, really well in auto-regulatory approaches. Like, so my problem is I will generally work too hard. So like coaches have had to rein me in since the beginning. Like
it's not an interview. You don't have to tell us your weakness and then make it a positive.
So
I work too hard.
That was good. That was really good.
That was a good one.
I drank so much pre-workout and did so much CrossFit that there was a point where I would take a salt, and my body was so pissed at me. Like the Muscle Farm, like blue raspberry. I would literally puke blue raspberry before every workout. Like that's how much of a fucking hole I dug myself in. Terrible. And I would puke, and then I would go do fucking snatches for time. And so I'm very, very cognizant, and I was probably even bigger back then. Like just to qualify, I was probably at like 190 and a lot of CrossFit and a lot of pre-workout. I might have been a little bit bigger, but the toll that took on my life, right, was not almost tore apart my marriage. Like I was fucking working out. I was at a gym from literally 5 a.m. till fucking almost 9. I would get home at like 9 or 10 at night every day if I was lucky. And so I've learned through trial and error that for me, like right now, I'm on a 6-day program, and I'm pretty good at getting all my volume in for the week. And if I got to be careful of being too good at that. And I think that's I will take volume way too high just because I love training so much. And so it's good for me to have some reins on the system. And I'm also, I would love to send you some notes. Like I sent you my deadlift video today. I will send you some stuff.
Good angle too on the RDLs.
Great job interview.
Camera angle.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting though? Like we're talking about all this stuff, but like that personal story, you can kind of see if anyone who knows you or kind of gone through your stuff, like you opened up a fucking meditation center in Costa Rica with a gym and started teaching this content, and it's just evolving. But it again, that comes back to, I don't want to say purpose because I fucking hate that, but I mean like that's you. You kind of made a way to be smart and teach the stuff that you've learned, which is helpful, I think, for other people to hear, because it doesn't have to be anything other than what you are. Or what you're growing to be, so to speak. Because you're not that person anymore, for sure. Like you I haven't seen you puke yet, but I believe.
But I think there's also an important distinction here too, is that maybe is the limiting factor of you becoming a huge, internet sensation. But you're not afraid to express your duality. I mean, you're a dude who's into meditation, has a yoga retreat, and is also an extraordinarily intense motherfucker. I mean, like there's a very dialectic kind of existence there, but I think that probably is for me. I know it's like, okay, I can relate because I'm obviously exactly the same type of person. I don't know if Dean has any in mindfulness attraction, but he's an intense dude. Like,
Yeah.
I think that is
slow
part
down.
of what probably draws us all into a similar vein.
Yeah, I tend to attract a certain type of person, and the reason that I feel like my message has weight and why people gravitate towards it is that I live it. And yeah, I live it, and then I also like acknowledge that, you know, I'm not fucking perfect, dude. Like, I'm not perfect. Like, I lose it. Like, and one of my buddies was like, he saw me fucking lose it. Like, he saw me go fucking nuts, and he's like, wow, I really appreciated that, because like I put you, like I thought like you were this very, very calm person, and I don't lose it all the time, but I can tell you, like in my youth, fucking I can see it now, like when I fucking snap. And I think anybody who's like wherever you're from, right? And I think a lot of that was where I grew up, in that was probably a self-defense tactic, and like I could just flip a switch, and it was a
Yeah, I
completely
wouldn't want
different
to
person.
play basketball with you as a kid. That would have been like you would have tried to fight me, and I'm like, fuck.
No, I didn't like sports really didn't, like I don't think sports really do it. Girls would do it for sure. Like I don't know, like it's honestly like not big shit. It's just like a lot. I think for a lot of us, even right now, like we're probably on edge a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And like it's just like the little shit all adds up, and like some people, like are intense people, like it could be like your wife doesn't put the glass on the coaster, and you just go, like it just eats at you inside. And so that's generally, my dad's the same way. Like when I was 16, and I have my brother, he's not my biological brother, but he lived with us in high school. The day that my brother got his license, we took my dad's car. He was driving my dad's car, and I was driving my car, and we crashed them into each other.
Fucking idiots.
The day that he got his license. But before that, we also lied to my parents as a joke and told them that he didn't get his license. So my dad gets a call from the cops, and it says, hey, your two sons have gotten in an accident. I have them here. They are okay. And my dad thinks that my brother does not have his license. My dad like doesn't lose it. Super calm. Like, no big deal. I'm just glad that everyone's not hurt, right? Side story, right? We're in high school, same type of shit. There's a bird in the house. There's a bird. Like, shit, like, why the fuck we live in Wisconsin. Why is there a bird in the fucking house? Like, we get to leave high school to go eat lunch. And my dad packs his lunch in the fridge. All the time, we used to fucking eat his lunches. He packed his nice ass lunches, eat his lunch, right? So there's like 6 of us at the house eating all the food, right? And I call him on the phone. I'm like, hey, Dad, dude, there's a bird in the house. Like, there's a bird. I told him, I was like, dude, there's a bird in the house. And he's like, there's not a fucking bird in the house, man. Don't lie to me. I can tell he's already on edge. And I'm like, hey, Dad, there's a bird in the house. He had all these like plates that he had plates that he collected that were like, I don't know why he did it. I still make fun of him about it. But he had plates. He had plates that had fish on them. And so the bird flew on one of the plates, and it broke one of his plates. And I was like, dude, he's never gonna fucking believe me. Like, if I get this bird out of here, there's no way he's gonna believe me that the bird broke the plate. Like, so I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna call him and tell him there's a bird. So I called him. I told him there's a bird in the house. He's like, no, man, there's not a fucking bird. And I was like, dude, there's a bird. He broke your plate. He's like, no, there's not. He was at work. He's like, I'm driving to the fucking house right now. Got his car, drove to the house, comes in the house. He sees the bird. He's like, fuck you. He's so furious. Sees the broken plate. I'm like, dude, I told you I didn't break your plate. The fucking bird did it. Lots of swearing. Exactly like this. Dude just gets a fishing net, comes to the house. Just all my friends are there. Dude just like goes up, grabs this bird, walks out of the house, and leaves. And he's just so furious, right? He's just completely lost his mind over a bird breaking a plate. Compare that to, $35,000 worth of damage and potentially his one of his sons going to jail, and he's completely calm, right? And so I don't necessarily think that we're going to be rational in our current situation. I don't know where that was going, but
You basically, so actually, like, so remember when I pegged you, I was like, oh, you're saying all these compliments. There's gonna be something leading up to it. Like, you totally did that. You set your dad up. So like, that's why I'm hesitant. Like, you're that.
no, like my dad is a Zen Buddhist priest, guys. He sits on a cushion. But you don't have to be perfect. And so I think a lot of people, when they get into this content world, they want to be perfect. They feel like they cannot make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. You're gonna fail. It's just do it in a way where you're not an asshole. And in order to make a lot of money, you probably gotta be a little bit of an asshole. And you probably gotta sell a simple story. And those people, if they come to a March retreat, and they've come, they immediately know that they immediately either they create friction and I have to get them the fuck out of there. But why do you think that pre-selection process is what it is? Because if I get the wrong person in there, and it's happened, if I get one or two of the wrong people in that environment, it blasts it. And then we got to spend the whole time like kind of figuring out how to make it work. Because that's tough. And so you gotta, if you decide what kind of person you want to be, and then put out content that gels with your value system. And if you're a psychopath, you're a psychopath, and you probably don't care anyways.
And you'll be rich.
Well, you can change. Like, by the sounds of it, you were kind of a wild child. So I mean, you can change that narrative too if you want.
Yeah, you can.
Don't bring birds in the house. You totally. Did you? Honest question before we get you. Did you bring that bird in the house?
No, it flew in by its own means.
Why was the door open? Like, close the.
Yeah, we probably did leave the door open.
Yeah, for sure you did.
We did leave the door open. I will. I'm sure. Like, my dad and mother deserve some kind of reward. I think most dads and moms deserve.
I definitely do.
Deserve. And so I remember that.
Those two stories sound like the tip of the iceberg, for sure.
Yeah.
You don't need to incriminate yourself, but
yeah.
It might not help sell content.
No, I think that it's really interesting too. I wonder how, completely off base, like how is the political world gonna work? Like when people my age are running for office.
Right.
It boggles my mind. Like right now they're all 50 and 60. We don't know anything about them. We have to make shit up. Like what happens like when you don't have these ideas of perfection? Like you have actual people who have failed and we all got shit in our closets we don't want to talk about, right? And so it's going to be really, really interesting and that's one of the problems with social media. It's a highlight reel, and you're comparing your highlight reel to everybody else's highlight reel, and nothing ever goes wrong. And so that's why a lot of people have imposter syndrome. And so it's put some lifts on there that aren't awesome. And the problem is like Dean doesn't have lifts that are. He's putting his squats on there. Yeah. I'll put my deadlifts on there.
I put my not awesome. I'm squatting 95 pounds. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Like,
but you do spin it in a positive light, like, oh, I'm learning about the squat.
Yeah, exactly. I get messages all the time like, why the fuck are you doing that? They're like, can you put some real? Actually, I know my true friends. Like, can you put some real weight on there? I'm like, fuck off.
Dude, that question, like Jeb and I were talking, like that fucking question has drove me nuts for like the last year. It's like, is it a good idea for you actually to be able to get knee flexion in the squat with the bar above your waist? I can't answer that question right now. I really I don't think it depends on your goal. Like if your goal, do you want to be good at squatting? Like, is that your goal or what's your goal?
My goal?
Yeah. Why are you doing
My goal is to get out of knee pain. And that's the only way.
Get out of pain.
And basically every time I go into a hinge pattern squat, it fucks it up. So it's just a matter of doing, the way I look at it is like I did this one, like if you look at those spectrums, and we kind of, I rode so high here that I had no other option and I fucking broke. And so I'm just going here and moving my way back to the middle. And it seems to be working. Like, but I mean, I don't know, like there's no one researching this stuff. There's nothing out there, even on these two types of squats. Cause again, you put out something about half squatting, which is just basically non-shitty hinge squat that doesn't go to the shitty part, and then everyone jumps on it. So I don't think anyone's going to actually explore those things because we haven't had the tools either to do it, because you can't do a heavy zercher. And then the transformer bar just came out, which is the only thing that's been allowed you to put that weight there and load it. So it's just a matter of people testing it out, and no one, I don't know, it's hard.
I hate to say it, but like the transformer bar is a shitty hack squat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But it's the closest thing to move you back towards the middle. But a hack squat does that too, and even Joel said that. He's like, the only type that actually gets you that I think is helpful is if you do the hack squat, because then you can stay upright without all the other stuff. But do you need to stay upright? And it's just like, I don't know. But it's just a matter of understanding that purpose.
And you're in the pain realm now,
which is different.
Which is biopsychosocial, right? Like, why do you associate that lift with pain? I think you're doing the right thing, which is
but it just I don't think it's helpful. I wouldn't like. I just think squatting is made up anyways. Like the barbell back squats. It's the same argument. It's like that thing. Should people be doing that? But should be people doing back? I think no one needs to do any of that shit because it's stupid. It's all stupid. Deadlifting's stupid. It's just if you want to get big, it's kind of. But my legs are growing with that squat. So then if the thing is to get your legs
but you're also doing leg extensions.
Right. Yeah.
So, which you've never done before.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
so I think you have a confounding variable there of leg extensions being a big deal. But that's not to say that you're not feeling things in your quads. But I don't like. Are you actually over? Maybe in the lengthened position.
So the only reason why, so this is actually cool because like everyone's gonna have their why or whatever why they're doing something. I think that people just see Pat do wedge squats and see they followed Zach, so everyone does that now. My reason is it's the only one that doesn't get pain and I can train. So I'm like, what I would used to do would be like, well, it's not heavy enough. I'm gonna go do the heaviest stuff if it doesn't, even if it hurts, and I'm still gonna post it on Instagram. Now I just like, if I can train and I don't get hurt, I'm just gonna do that thing. I don't care what it is. So it's interesting because I've kind of come to that conclusion, but I don't think it's good for the reasons why it's kind of talked about with the other world, about the internal, external. Like, I don't even know where I stand on that yet because I don't think that there's enough information, enough people doing it right to even quantify it. Because even the people doing the wedge front-loaded stuff, they're just doing a hinge squat on a wedge, and so there's actually no one doing. There's no one doing it like me, really. Like Pat does it, but he doesn't do it all the time because he still goes for load. You've dabbled in it, but you're still going for output. No one's actually committing to doing it.
I mean, I am just because Ryan's making me.
Yeah, but like that's what I don't think that there's anyone really doing it properly because they think that the second they're on a wedge, they're doing a knee flexion squat, and it's actually they just pitch themselves forward. So no one's actually trying it out. Is my point.
Which is the problem with the research right now,
right?
Is that because you don't actually see people changing that much when you put a lift on them.
No,
right.
They get more ankle dorsiflexion, and they may get a different torso angle. But I don't think I don't think that you're gonna get enormous changes in things. Like from a muscle standpoint, like maybe from a pain perception type standpoint, like do you really want to feel your hamstrings in a squat? No. If you're after load, you don't want to feel your hamstrings in a squat because if your hamstrings are fucking contracting in a squat, they're gonna keep your quads from contracting. That's gonna keep you from going up. It's literally gonna be a brake on the system. So you don't want to. So like. If you're after output and moving load, I think you don't want to feel anything.
Well, right.
Well, that's its only purpose. I think its only purpose, like if I were to if I'm just looking at the bias of like not even hypertrophy but strength, the only purpose of that shit and learning how to do it well is to give you that option so that your rigidity isn't like so far on here. You kind of have the option to be here, and I think that you push your strength up because you're not so fragile. Because no one does that stuff, and everyone who kind of is super specific for too long, they all break. Unless like I don't think there's anyone doesn't. I think you can train longer and without pain, without getting that pain spot, if you add in those things, even just to bump up that low end, so you can start moving the scale towards that. But again, no one knows because the only people doing it right now are the high-level powerlifters who they've watched some of Pat's stuff and they're kind of doing it. So we don't know what the reason is for that. It's just a matter of we have to get people to do it, and people have to do it right. You've tried it to do that thing right, or to get posterior expansion and stuff. Like that's a coaching nightmare. Like, and most people don't even do it right themselves, and it's hard to coach it in other people. So it's like
and it's hard to see it.
It's hard to see it because like and you can do it, and then you have to ask them how they feel, and they might not feel the right thing. So then they're having a conversation somewhere else. So it's like a big shit show. So I don't know.
I would say that. So if we look at if our goal is being able to squat as much as possible. How can this help us do that? I think, how can this changing of the squat potentially help us? I think if you have a very, very hingy squat, it could potentially keep you from having to use that pattern as soon. So like if your quads aren't very strong, you're gonna go to that hinge very quickly.
Right.
So it can help you get your weight under the bar, so you can kind of change your levers just a little bit, so that you can wait to kind of turn your squat into a deadlift. Maybe just a little bit longer, and you can make depth a little bit easier in coming out of the hole. So that's my argument.
But then most people, when you take that wedge away with someone who actually lifts heavy, their squat looks a lot better from bottom to top. That's the thing, is that wedge works great when we see people drop into what we call squatty squat. But when you watch someone come up, when they add any load to it, there's automatically a shift. And when you take that away and you put them in flat shoes, as long as they have good ankle flexion, they see a much better actual squat pattern.
Well, and that's where it's just like, I think that if you use if you use the extension strategy too much, you run out of room.
Right.
And so then you run out of the leg room for getting stronger. And I think that if you can kind of get them to use another strategy, even just a little bit, it's still there, and it gives them a break from making a bicep curl and extension based. It just takes everything out of the equation so that you can start to train the other one, so you're not exhausting the thing that's probably going to drive the output anyways. Like anyone who puts a back squat is going to have to fucking do it. There's there's maybe like 2 people I've seen that can stay upright, and they're Olympic lifters. And so I think the strategy itself, if you use it too much, you have a bank. You have a bank of how much you can use that, and once it's exhausted, you're fucked. And I was exhausted, so I've had to like create capacity there. I think that it's just kind of whoever's lucky enough to do that. It's usually the stupid people that get, like, the crazy people tend to use the extension thing too much, and they get hurt all the time. And so that teaches them not to be crazy. Like, that's all it is, because you can't be crazy and do that pattern, because you can't do load, and you have to think through it, at least initially. And like those are 2 skills that I think a lot of lifters could possibly benefit from a lot of times.
You're also playing with fire all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
So like,
you're riding so close to the sun.
Every powerlifter, like, that's what Ryan and I talked about yesterday, so Friday, is that like if you're squatting 600 pounds, like if your 10 rep max squat is 600 pounds, I don't know that you squat.
Yeah.
Because it's like you won the squat medal, man. Like you got to squat that much weight, and some shit can happen with 600 pounds on your back. Right? Is it a good idea for you to like? In that situation, yeah, maybe it is a good idea to use leg extensions to warm up, and then maybe you can knock that 600-pound squat to 315, and so it's kind of like once you get to this weird ass land that you've gotten to, Dean, where you're really fucking strong, right, and your strength is actually a danger.
It's a negative.
It's a danger, right? And now you're using, like, what did these things do to you? They took away load. They took away the danger. Right?
Well, that's where it's like there's not enough people talking about it to even practice it, because like right now this stuff's getting layered up. Basically, the people using it aren't that strong a lot of the times, and the coaches teaching it aren't that strong. Then the people who are strong aren't doing it, but there's a few people, but they're not people who are going to create those ideas and train it into people. Like the one is like Will out of Australia. He's been doing it, and he's been seeing results, but I don't think enough powerlifters are going to buy in to see if that helps that end of things. Bodybuilders are going to do, like, Ryan's the only one I can think of. You and Ryan are the only ones that are kind of taking these concepts and applying them to, not enough people are doing it. So it's just this is like the infancy. I see this as the infancy of it.
You're seeing a lot more of structural stuff in bodybuilding, like heels up. I mean, you're getting a lot of these smart guys like Joe Bennett and Eugene Tower, whatever that. But they're introducing not as much of the respiration stuff, but more of just using structure to create that without you're creating using constraints to create the structure.
I've seen some bodybuilder. I can't remember the one dude. I think he's out of Costa Rica, but like he does the use your quads in your squat. I'm gonna do a wedge and you heel and get upright, but it still looks like shit. And like, but they're like, I can feel it on my quad. So it's like, is it a bad thing? It's just like, I don't think we can talk about this thing.
Which is also why they just built the hack squat machine.
Right, but even people fuck that up too. It's like how I don't know. But then this
is good. This is good because all of this stuff for putting on muscle, it's low effect size.
Yeah,
like that's the ultimate. Like, and you think about what the fuck we argue about in this field. It's all generally low effect size stuff. It's everybody's got the big wheels on, and now we're gonna argue about what kind of muffler we're putting on the car.
And I only literally like said, no one gives a shit about the same stuff. Like I only give a shit about how this is going to help me get bigger and stronger. And then the other people are doing it just want to see how it helps people get out of pain. And so like
literally the only reason I ever used a wedge is to get more, because I figured if I can get more range of motion, I'll get more quad size.
Yeah, but I would say like
Maybe
why?
that's not. Yeah, why?
My thing is like, why not just pick a different exercise? Like why? Like if you legit, this is Ryan and my big conundrum right now. Like if you legit don't care about squatting, like which is a tough pill to swallow as someone who cares about the iron game, like because like it's up there like bench. Like I've forgotten about deadlift, but but it's a big deal, right? And so like, are we willing? It seems like we have to be willing to potentially throw away a sacred cow in the name of be like, hey, maybe this just isn't the best thing for quad growth. Maybe loading my body through the spine isn't the best idea.
Well, that's why we'll never get to the answer, because you're not going to be willing to do that. It's just like, am I going to?
I'm going to be willing to do it. I'm gonna run that study.
What, the squat one? Did you try to do it and you guys quit after like a month?
No, I don't want to run like that. Why did that study sucks? Like it's a shitty study. Like I want to take like go mash on a barbell back squat.
Yeah.
Versus go mash on a hack squat. I think that's what are highly trained people they want to mash, right?
Yeah.
So like go
failure.
We're gonna equate velocity drop. Like I don't know if you probably can't. You'd probably be able to go maybe not a lot slower in a hack squat because you have more stability there. But like at least hard sets we're gonna equate. And like that's like one of the main studies that I want to do is like.
But then there's that whole conundrum of like even with the hack squat. I don't care what anyone says because I ride high in extension. I can figure out a way to use my back in a hack squat if I don't get coached into.
Yeah, but if I got 3D cameras on you, as long like the only thing I really like, that's a bunch of shit I don't really care about. As long as I'm getting more knee flexion and I have an upright torso angle, like because now in the research world, like no. Like if I can
that's what I mean. So like that's answering two questions. And to me, because if you like, we're just saying Zach stuff and all this posterior expansion bullshit. But if you layer that on, that's a different question. Because like that's you know what I mean? It's like and
I don't think that's gonna help with hypertrophy at all.
No.
Like I don't but it might keep you from getting hurt, maybe. I think it's a giant maybe. Like researching injuries. A fucking ball wax, like just talk to the FMS about that. They got crushed. But like all the other acronyms, like, oh, look what happened to FMS. Like I guarantee you, if somebody else ran your shit, they would probably come up with that it was not injury predictive because injury is just really hard to predict. It's a terrible endpoint variable. And so I think that from if we're just thinking about this as a hypertrophy standpoint, I wouldn't care about that variable. Nor do I even think that there is a fucking way to measure it.
No, that's why it's like, so it's just like, I think of like you answering these questions is like people aren't answering these questions. So like, where's training going to be going? And a lot of the times it's just going to be us trying it out and using it. And I don't think we're going to get to a point where we can start saying this is a better answer, even though we can say it's a better answer. And this comes back to content creation is like, I can't even find shit on this stuff to create something to say to combat Lane when he comes in and says there's no injuries in squats when they squat. Doesn't matter. Like there's no injuries in it as compared to this thing. So shut the fuck up. And it's like, well, like, so you know what I mean? So like, I want to get to that spot where this stuff becomes able to be measured so that we can start using it a little bit smarter other than just a bunch of people trying to layer it in.
Again, though, I think that all that really happens is we just create new camps.
Yeah.
We don't really get closer to a better answer. We just create new camps to argue over the same stuff.
But that's what I think that's what this is going to be like.
Which I'm cool with. Create more discussion.
Well, but the thing is, like, I'm fine with camps arguing. What bothers me right now is like what bothers me is that nobody's like trying to really answer the question with science.
Right. Yeah, right.
That's what irks me. Is like, all right, we're just having these arguments for no reason. We're having the same arguments and people are getting mad, but we're not actually trying to answer the question. And like in your like Lane versus Joel or whatever, like whatever fucking verses you want to put into that. Lane's they might both have research to back them up. It's just the interpretation of that research. Like the research that I have read is that if you want to like get people out, like higher range of squats are probably better, right? Because you're going to keep the torso angle or you're going to have to lower load. Like whereas partials, you're going to have higher load and you're not going to have the same range of motion And so that's potentially more injurious. So are they just doing half-ass half squats? That would be my guess. And they feel better doing half-ass half squats versus doing a tempo. And also you get into
my argument was like, even I brought up in there, and this is where it's like we're still fighting over nothing, is like, so we have the squatty squat versus the hinge dominant squat. The half squats that they're doing are a hinge dominant squat to the max and stopping at the point where they break down, which is because everyone breaks down. And I'm like, well, that's actually smart, because then it's basically an RDL.
You're doing a shitty deadlift.
Yeah, they're doing a half. Yeah. So anyways, but like that is, if you had that answer, I would be like, I would agree with that. But then it's just because it's like that does something. Like,
is he getting knee flexion though? Like, is he actually getting? Are they doing like a west side like box squat, or is he doing like?
He's trying to create two 90-degree angles.
He lets them organize themselves.
Oh, he's not. He doesn't want the knees to go forward.
Well, he doesn't say that. He doesn't coach it. So like what happens is, and this is where my thing is like, you put a barbell back squat on someone, they're gonna hinge it. Like it's fucking impossible. So they're gonna start in a hinge and they're gonna keep hinging to the point where, don't go to the point where it fucks you up and it hurts. Well, that's usually when people start butt winking and compensating. And it's just like, well, you just stop that. I actually think that that's okay, because most trainers do that anyways. Like they do high box squats because people can't squat properly because they're hinging their squats. It's like, well, just stop them where they don't. And that's the do less harm thing.
Yeah. I mean, there is some knee flexion because he's talking 90 degrees, not 90 degrees to the floor, 90 degrees between your ankle and then also at the knee angle. And then
so he's not talking a double 90.
No, not like a straight, not 90 to the floor, but the actual 90-degree angle in both the hip and in the knee crease, I believe.
No ankle.
No ankle. You're right. Knee and hip.
Which it's just whatever. Like
it's not even a half squat.
I think they're not even arguing. It's like Lane's arguing about a fucking full hinge low bar back squat that's in this research, doesn't cause any more injury than anything else they do. And he's talking about a half hinge squat. They're both, in my opinion, not squats. They're both deadlifts. So it's like, but no one's on that level anyways. And I could be wrong. And so then it's like, what are we even?
You're arguing about context and terminology. Yeah. Like you're just that's all it is like we're
I think that's all everything
terms.
At this point. Yeah. Like it's just I don't think enough people have enough tools to even, because Lane, especially the people who hate PRI, and like all the people in our camp hate PRI at this point, but we still kind of do PRI-ish stuff, and it's just like, does that stuff might not even work. So like we may be arguing about nothing. Like, and maybe it's just do a hack squat versus a squat. Like when do we get back to just simple? And that could, I don't know. That's kind of why it's cool having these arguments, because I think that, not even arguments, I think that these discussions don't happen in a productive way. And that was the whole thing with Joel and bringing Christian Thibodeau on, is that it's just literally a cesspool of arguing. And no, actually, like we could talk about this and start thinking about things, and now there's going to be a new idea, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't happen. It's like squats versus half squats. It's like, I don't think it was that simple, but.
So what's the practical takeaway from this conversation, other than it being maybe entertaining for people to listen to us in our BroResearch shirts? Thank you, guys.
Right. There's nothing good.
No, like we're thankful you're here.
I mean, I think the practical takeaway that the listener hopefully gets is that you, if you want to be famous and rich, plant your flag and do not deviate. If you want to actually grow with integrity and values, then start to plant the seeds of doubt in your own arguments and dig a little deeper.
Yeah. And maybe have some people that you trust to review your content before you put it on the internet.
Yeah.
You didn't even talk about that. I think that's helpful. And so if people were gonna find you and like you wanted to like learn about this stuff and anything you got going on, do you have any like where to guide them for this stuff?
Yeah, so I teach the one-on-one research-based content creation course.
Wow.
Which helps you be basically Jeventeen and question your entire reality. But you get this amazing headdress whenever you're on Skype. It actually comes with the program. Thank you, Joe. No, it's a fun thing. It's a one-on-one type of mentorship where you create a research question and you research it, and I help you along the way. And then I help you hone your message and hone your content, and try to kind of be your own devil's advocate, help you to see your blind spots so nobody can call you out and you've already acknowledged them. And you learn by doing. And so that's the course. That's really, it's been I'll be honest with you. The reason that I created the course was kind of a fuck you to academia. So I got offered 2 jobs to work as a remote, work in a master's program. And they were going to pay me $1,800 per course, regardless of the number of kids in it, regardless of the number of students. I was like, well, I really want to do that. Like, I would enjoy teaching these courses. I would really enjoy helping people learn the research process. But I don't want to do that for 12 weeks for $1,800. That sounds really, really terrible to work, you know, and the hours were Thursday to Sunday. Like it was terrible. Like I had to be basically on call to answer questions from Thursday to Sunday night. I'm like, how can I create this? And because my wife's like, I don't want you to take that job. It's not worth it for us financially. Like you're gonna make, I think I was gonna make like $26,000 a year. It was terrible. And she's like, but I was like, hey, I feel like this is missing in my life. I really would like to help other people with this process. And she's like, well, see if you can create it. And so that's how this was born. Was a problem, and then my wife offered a solution, and now we're here.
Well, and we can like say nice things, but I think it's I'm not going to say it's not helpful to masters and PhD students, because I think it is, because that's kind of where you came from. But I think it's also helpful to like fitness professionals who aren't necessarily going to do that, or who've aged out, who aren't go back.
Aged out of the system.
Like, and I don't even want to go back and pay for it. So it's like I would rather just like go to the specific part, because my life is built on this thing. And the cool thing is I think that it's going to create new types of questions going forward with a different set of, I guess, people in that field, because largely it's going to let fitness professionals, in my opinion, start being more closer to that master's PhD level. And it doesn't replace that, but it kind of gives them the ability to do that content if they want to put the hours in on themselves. Because I don't think you have to go to school to learn shit, like in my opinion.
Yeah, so we've had actually quite a few masters and PhD students go through the program, and I think what they take away from it is like, because what I wasn't taught in my master's and PhD program was how to actually make my message. Like because you're not taught that. You're taught how to do research. You're not taught how to make it understandable, to sell it. You're not taught the sales aspect of your message. And that's why you see so many null results sitting in file cabinets, because they can't sell the null finding. And that's actually a huge problem in research, is because it's really hard to sell a null finding. And so that's what a lot of the masters and PhD folks who come through the program, that's what they learn. And then interesting, like for you guys already know how to hone a message. You know how to sell. Like you guys did really, really well right away on your talk, because you guys are used to talking to people and you're used to speaking, right? Whereas for you guys, it was the big thing was like, all right, I feel confident at least looking at research. Yeah. So I think that both camps can kind of take something away from it. And I'll be the first to tell you, like, there's probably cheaper ways to learn both of those skills. I'll give you them. Like, email me if you want my cheap ways to learn both of those skills. I'll send them to you. Like, one of the things that I think is lacking in a lot of people's life is community and mentorship. And so that's why I created this program. Like, if you don't have the money right now, that's fine. I'll send you cheap ways to kind of build those skills.
And deadlift videos.
Yeah, and obviously.
Or RDL.
Yeah,
but I do think that community aspect, because one of the things that I kind of took out of this too is it's like, I don't feel like it was like we did this course, presented, and it was done. To me, I was like, okay, now I'm in. Now I'm bought in, and now I'm like, okay, where does it go next? Like, I feel like this is like, it doesn't feel like this thing, whatever it is you created, was a course. Like, it feels like, okay, this started us, and now, you know, and that's why I love the 200-hour thing. It's like, oh yeah, you just got your little hours in. Like, you're just starting. Like, we're gonna go deep. And so it's like, now it's like, all right, where does this go next? Where do we go next? Where do we hit? Like, Dean and I are doing this podcast because it was like, we can't let this slide. We have to keep it going forward. And I think that was the actual, of anything, that's the biggest overall benefit, right?
Yeah, and it's been really, really cool to see all the ripples, right? Like, you guys are like, just to see the ripples out, and it's been fun. And that was my goal, was to be able to kind of take a step back and have you guys question each other and create content. So thank you.
What else do you got going on? Where do people reach you or find you? I know you're a big time influencer, so they probably should already know if they don't know, but
influencer.
Yeah.
BroResearch.com or at Dr. Ben House on Instagram, or you can friend me on Facebook. I'm not popular enough to have 5,000 friends. I still have like 300, 400 slots left. Get in there while they're there. When I'm looking at friend requests, it's how many friends do we have in common, and then the next question is, do you even lift? And if we have mutual friends and you lift, I say yes. So that's
simple enough.
It's a barrier of entry.
Let's close it up. Okay, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for being here. Huh? Dude, I hope you.
That's right. I have wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail.
You can't stop me.
I'm going to win.
It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
I won't quit.
I'll just keep getting stronger.
Stronger?
Stronger.